The Edmonton Elks, they win 2 in a row. They defeat the BC Lions down at Commonwealth Stadium by a score of 33-16. The Elks improved to 2-7 on the season. Welcome to the Green and Gold Postgame Show live at Centric Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where every day is game day here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Your clear choice for Edmonton sports. Matt Iwanyk, Jay Milne with you here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in iHeartRadio as well as those watching on YouTube as the Elks win this football game. Trey Ford gets the decision, but MBT comes into the game and helps carry the Elks to this victory. A game where Trey Ford, he comes into the game, he looks, and this Elks offense looks like what we saw against Saskatchewan last year, but then takes a hit, and he leaves the game with an injury that looks like a rib injury. Didn't stay in the locker room. He was out on the bench the entire game, so we'll wait to see what the status is of Trey Ford. But the Elks still end up beating the BC Lions, handing them their third straight loss. Jay, your thoughts on what we saw down at Commonwealth Stadium?
Well, I mean, ultimately a win is a win. 33-16 is the final. Trey Ford was doing Trey Ford things in the first half until that injury. And, I know Dusty and Suits talked about it on the halftime show of the TSN broadcast, as did the panel. But that's the give and take with the quarterback like Trey Ford. And you were actually on it early in the game of saying, stop doing that, stop trying to make everything, call a spade, and if it's not there, like that play where he got hurt, hindsight's obviously 20/20, but you'd like to see him run out of bounds there.
Run out of bounds, or you have to immediately get rid of that football.
Instead of taking the shot on your body, it appears to have caught up. Now, during the game, I was looking at it immediately. I thought that was a collarbone. It's been confirmed that it is a rib injury. Now, it depends on the severity of the rib injury. If it's a muscle strain of the muscle and the tissue that are in between your ribs, or if it's a fracture of a rib, those are going to have different timelines.
I've legit had one of those muscle strains.
Yeah, they're
inside
pain.
the ribs.
They're bad.
For a few weeks, they're painful, and they mess with you.
Given the pain he was in, I would, if I was to guess, I would say this is a fracture of a rib. And that's 2 to 4 weeks of timeline to get back into play. So it looks like the team's going to be without Trey Ford. Hopefully not. Hopefully, I'm wrong and it was just, something, a strain. It would appear to be different than that. But
I will say just quickly, I don't believe it looks that severe because I don't think he would have stayed out there with the team in his equipment if it was a bigger issue.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he stayed out there, and they were going to evaluate him at half, they waited the extra minute and a half of football, and then he came out with the team in the second half in full gear, leads me to believe that it's not like, okay, this is 2 months.
A fractured rib, though, is not a serious injury. I mean, there's been players outside of the quarterback position that have played through it having a fractured rib. Now, it seemed as though, Trey Ford was wincing in pain when he was trying to throw the ball because there's a lot of things that are moving around in your chest when you're throwing and delivering a ball. So, who knows? We'll see. I guess the positive is that, at that point, they were up 19-10. And you thought, okay, what's going to happen here? Because obviously Macbeth is going to get the ball in the second half. And the third quarter was a bit of a stinker. The third quarter was, oh boy, what are we getting ourselves into? But then, it's like they went back to that simplified offense of depending on that run game. They got Rankin and Leak going. They had 28 carries combined between the two of them. That is a season high, 164 yards between the two of them. That's a 5.8 average. That's good. That's going to get you in second and short situations or, powering the ball. You saw at the end of the game they couldn't stop anything. They'd broken their will with the run game. So that was very, very nice to see. And Macbeth, put up 14 points in the fourth quarter. So, that was nice to see. Obviously it was aided by a roughing the kicker, but points are points. So, it wasn't the most fantastically exciting game.
No. But I'll say this because I remember it happened with Trey Ford when he got hurt in his first season against Calgary. The Trey Ford injury just deflates deflates things.
Sure.
Because of all the excitement we've seen from this team, and we saw a team even just today, through the first few drives that they had in this game with Trey Ford until he got hurt. It's an exciting team. They're fun to watch. They can go up against anyone and do some really good things. So the moment you lose Trey Ford, you're going, we're trying to get excited about this team here in Edmonton. Could they go on a playoff run, a playoff push? And now the guy that's supposed to lead it's hurt. And this guy who makes it very exciting, it's hurt. And then you go to a quarterback like McLeod Bethel-Thompson who, he's just not he's not exciting. Like, he did his job today. He threw the interception, but beyond that, he was 14 of 18, 171 yards and a touchdown. Did his job.
Yeah.
It was really good as QB2 in this football game. It just, when he plays well, it's never going to be as sexy as when Trey Ford plays just good, right? Like, that's the difference here. So that's why you watch this football game. Yeah, it wasn't like, wow, they're going to show this one for ages to talk about how good that one is. But for the Edmonton Elks, I'll give them credit. They found a way to still go get this win. I'll give them credit for finding a way to still get the run going without Trey Ford.
Yeah.
The fact that Leak and Rankin were still able to go produce, especially in that fourth quarter, after this team hasn't produced with the run until Trey Ford came in as starting quarterback, the fact that they were able to continue to do that, it's one of two things. One, how come that couldn't be done earlier this year? But you then should be able to keep going with this depending on the status of Trey Ford. It shouldn't matter.
Well, and we mentioned it in the kickoff show that the Elks were dressing 7 offensive linemen for the first time this year. Clearly that was because of a new offensive, series that they dialed up when they brought in a 6th offensive lineman that is. And clearly that, helped push that O-line and get Leak and get Rankin these numbers. But Javon Leak, you can't say enough about the guy. I mean, 21 carries. That's a workhorse. And then you chip in, 4 receiving catches for 37 yards. I mean, that's a good day at the office for Javon Leak. So he's quickly emerging as a dual threat, for one, and a dependable threat. Early in the year, we had often referred to it on special teams, his ball security issues. Well, it seems to me like he's holding onto the ball a lot better now. Hasn't put it on the ground in the last 4 games. So nice to see Javon Leak taking control of that backfield, but you also have that, you have that dine and dash kind of smash bash story between Rankin and Leak, where Rankin is the guy that'll bust it up the middle and get you yards with 3-4 guys on his back, whereas Leak, you can leak him out of the backfield, no pun intended, and spring him loose with a swing pass or something, which we saw tonight.
I will say Kevin Brown, when he gets back in the lineup, he's going to have to show real quickly that he can run again, because there's cap casualty written all over him at this moment.
Right now there is, because I'm guaranteeing you Rankin's coming in at a much lower value.
With Leak and Rankin as your 1-2, I love Kevin Brown. I love KB.
Yep.
But it's just one that, when he gets back in, he's probably itching to get back in right away. Because he's seeing what these other 2 guys are going. Is like, I got to get my job back. I got to make sure that solidifies and stays with me.
And they're taking the run game seriously for the first time this year. In the last 2 games, we've got consecutive games with over 20 carries. It's not rocket science. If it's going, and doesn't have to be huge success on every play, but if you're averaging 5.9 yards per play, that's huge, and that will break the will of a defense. No question.
Zulu saying the D was great, holding BC scoreless in 2 quarters tonight. The D came to play today. Now, you weren't as sold on Jake Dolegala going into this game. I was much higher on Jake Dolegala. I was wrong on this one. You were correct on Jake Dolegala, at least for tonight's game. Wasn't terrible.
It wasn't terrible, but
he
just
didn't do anything to help get his team into better scoring positions. They settled for quite a bit of field goals. He was connecting with Keon Hatcher a little bit. He started off with Justin McInnes in the first half, and then he kind of went away from him. Couldn't get Alex Hollins going in this game at all. But credit also to the Edmonton Elks defense, I would say, in this one, is that, after an opening drive touchdown that they gave up, which you go, well, is this what the defense is going to be? They settled in the rest of the way. Gave up 9 points the rest of the football game.
Yeah, it was a team effort. I mean, you had a couple real bad things happen in that first quarter. You had the slow start again. I mean, last week against Saskatchewan, Opening kickoff touchdown. Boom, you're down 7-0.
Keep forgetting about that one.
Opening drive touchdown here, 8 plays, 64 yards. And Jake Dolagala looks like Tom Brady back there. Dinking and doiking and getting it down the field. Here, you think, oh, God, we're in for another long game. And then in the second drive, Trey Ford takes him down there, putting together a nice drive, gets him into field goal position. Boris Beatty goes full Boris Beatty. And
he can't miss.
And misses, a very makeable field goal. So you're thinking, okay, back to the same old Elks.
Well, just quick. With Beatty, he said it a couple weeks ago. He figured it out. He was doing things. And I said, I'll believe it if we get to Labor Day and he hasn't missed the kick. You can't keep missing these kicks. I don't care that they won today. I don't have faith in Boris Beatty at all.
You said it later in the game when he lined up a 43-yarder and put it right between the pipes or something of that length, and you said, yeah, I have more confidence with Boris Beatty kicking from distance than you would for a chip shot.
No, he has distance.
He does.
He has a leg. You can never say Boris Beatty doesn't have a leg. He doesn't have the accuracy. That's a pretty big issue when you're a kicker.
Yeah, and I must say, though, we saw a couple field goals from Sean White that weren't exactly dimes that he was dropping through those uprights.
I'm sorry. He's 3 for 3 today. He didn't miss.
Who?
Sean White.
Yeah, no.
Still doesn't miss. I don't care how they go in. He doesn't miss. Boris Beatty's good, it seems, for a miss every game.
Yes.
For the most part.
Well, averaging out that for sure over 9 games.
It's probably every 2 games for sure you're getting a miss. And that's unacceptable when he's being brought in on a hefty salary to be the kicker. And when a couple weeks ago you say it's on me, I knew I was doing something wrong, but I figured it out. And you can't afford a miss until beyond, less than 50 yards. I'll always be okay with, a 53-yard miss occasionally. I can live with that.
You can, yes.
But they went he missed the kick from 34 yards, 35 yards. That's unacceptable. Inside 40, you have to make those kicks. I think you could afford one of those misses this season, and he's already given up a bunch of those.
Yeah, he has his misses already for the year. But let's focus on the other kicker, Julian, who was dialed in all day again. If that guy's not an all-Canadian or all-CFL punter, I know there's challengers, but he is so
I'm just trying
consistent.
to think. It's, I guess,
Western
East-West.
Conference anyhow.
Toronto has a great punter, too.
Yeah, but you're getting a major field turnover at that with a punter like him, drawing that penalty as well. I don't know that has anything to do with Julian and taking the penalty, but he did. So he gets credit for that. Extended a drive, led to a touchdown that at that point I think the offense desperately needed. But no, I'm going to keep going back to this 28 carries, man. 28 carries. And that's just between Leak and Rankin. That's not including Prukop and Trey Ford. No, that's just your 2 running backs. So I that seems to be a good system that works for the team offensively, is feeding them the rock.
Tevin Jones has been some sort of addition to this Edmonton Elks team through 2 weeks. Today, 6 catches, 123 yards, including a very beautiful catch that was kind of tipped in the air, and he grabbed it. He's become a target for both McLeod Bethel-Thompson and Trey Ford. It was fascinating because at halftime, they had 3 receivers with a catch. One of them is actually, though, running back in Javon Leak. All they had was Gittins Jr. and Tevin Jones with catches at halftime. We then ended up seeing – it still surprises me, but I guess this is just what this season's going to be now. Eugene Lewis, 1 target today.
Yeah.
It's – at this rate, they're winning football games. They're not needing him. There's a guy that I don't know how much longer he's not part of this franchise next season, I think, at this rate.
Well, but you got to remember that a guy like Geno Lewis is someone that they key on as well defensively to remove him from the game plan, to make them go to a Tevin Jones, who, by the way, was 6 targets, 6 catches. Curly Gittins Jr., 6 targets, 6 catches. Not 1 drop ball between those 2 guys.
Well, it's only 4 incompletions today.
That's amazing. That's
MBT
great.
was 14 of 18, and Trey Ford was perfect, 6 for 6.
Trey Ford was perfect before he got injured. Crazy. The story going into this week coming up is, it's not a long week. It's not a long break. It's not exactly a short turnaround either, as they play next Saturday. but it's going to be the Trey Ford injury.
Well, it's
because there's no question.
Okay, well, going into next Saturday's game against Hamilton Tiger Cats, where's your confidence level of this Elks team taking on Hamilton Tiger Cats and winning that football game right now? Let's go 0 through 10. 10 is most confident. 0 is not at all confident. McLeod Bethel Thompson's the starter of this team. What are you putting that at? Against the Ticats team that is reeling since their big win against the Elks. And Taylor Powell will be the starting quarterback.
I'd put it at an 8, even with Macbeth starting. Because you made a point, and I'll let you make it here on the broadcast, but about McLeod Bethel Thompson and getting that back. But if they can commit to running the ball, and they seem to have found something that works with this offensive line, with the running backs, mixing them both in Leak and Rankin, adding the 6th offensive lineman. But if they can get 20-plus carries per game, I still feel confident. The problem was before is you were having 11 carries, 12 carries, 9 carries, putting all the pressure on McLeod Bethel Thompson. Well, with a running game like this, you are allowing yourself to take the pressure off him, and then when he stands back in the pocket or play action, show it, pull it away, drop it over the linebackers. Everything works better offensively when you have a strong, purposeful running game.
So I would have it probably at a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I'm still just a little off when it comes to MBT. But also, if Trey Ford was starting, I wouldn't be at a 10. I'd probably only be at an 8.5 myself. So naturally, I'd be a little bit lower. The thing I like about the Elks, at least from these last couple of games to that Hamilton game when MBT last started, the defense overall is playing better.
Yep.
The defense has stepped up, and they have played better. And like we look at the first few games of this season, we didn't really put those on MBT. We said the defense didn't show up.
Well,
now
and the offense didn't necessarily. Like there was always something lapsing, but it seems like the defense.
But the majority of those first 4 games, 3 out of the 4 games was the defense just kept getting picked apart, and they were never going to win with that. That's what I'm liking that we're seeing from the defense here. But I think the thing you were saying of what I was going with earlier, I think MBT is the type of guy that once he goes back as a starter, he's going to produce better. He's hungry. He's pissed off. He's angry that he got benched. And that's going to fuel him, and we're going to see a better McLeod Bethel Thompson in relief of Trey Ford than we got from McLeod Bethel Thompson to start this season.
I would say probably more focused, more agitated, because, yes, the job was lost. But, and maybe now you're seeing that there was something to be said about having maybe a minor injury leading into that game that he was pulled from. That obviously, given the timelines of him not playing, he's had possibly the time to get it better, because he was throwing the ball pretty well today. And it was conservative still, yes. He did throw that one to Geno Lewis, your boy, and it went right through his hands. So you can't blame MBT for that. He gave him a shot on a jump ball. It's a great ball. But they were systematically moving the ball down the field. And instead of those 4-yard outs when it was 2nd and 10, they were hitting them at 10 yards. 11 yards and getting the first downs. So I thought Macbeth looked pretty confident. And as a professional athlete, I hope you're ticked off that you were pulled and you lost your job. Deservingly so. He would say the same thing. But you get a chance to come in and you don't screw it up.
This is the Green and Gold postgame show. Matt Iwanyk, Jay Milne with you live at Centric Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where every day is game day. If you come here for an Elks game, you can have some fun while watching the Elks games. You can play the ponies. Not going to lie, Jay and I were having a lot of fun today during the TV timeouts. Commercials would come, and we'd throw a couple bucks in, and we had a good time with that.
Yeah, actually, so I had a $10 ticket left.
Yeah.
So I gave it to our in-house gambling specialist here, and he said he doubled it already.
We're going to get his name.
Yeah, we should probably do that.
I'd love seeing him every week here.
Well, he says he's dang near a professional gambler, but he doubled it on the first race. On the Trotters, so I don't know where it's at now. He hasn't come over here running and celebrating, so probably not that good. But yeah, question in the nasty chat, Maddie and Jay, random question, but who gets credit for the win for this on the stat sheets? I guess is it Trey Ford because he started, or MBT because he played the majority of the game? Matt, you figured that because the Elks were leading the game when Trey Ford got injured, that it would still be his win as the starter. I would tend to agree with you. I don't think it comes down to who's played more minutes or whatnot. And to be quite honest, for both of them, who cares?
Well, it kind of does matter a little bit when you're looking like, is MBT a winning quarterback with the Elks
I
or
guess.
not?
I guess, sure.
I think it's like in hockey with the goalie. If you get pulled or leave the game when you're leading, you're the goalie of record. If all of a sudden the other team takes the lead and then your team wins again, it's whoever was in net, or I think it's with QB, whoever was the quarterback when you had the game-winning points scored, if you will, or when you first took the lead, I guess, of that range. So I'm not fully sure, but it does matter to me because then Trey Ford has won his 7th football game with the Edmonton Elks, or McLeod Bethel Thompson won his first.
I don't. Yeah, I think we would have been seeing it all over Twitter already if Macbeth did indeed get his first win with Edmonton. Tango says Trey Ford gets a win because they were winning when he left the game. And just a reminder to everybody that's watching on the YouTube stream, every time you hit that thumbs up, that puts us into the algorithm that sends us out to the masses so everybody in the world can see Matthew Iwanyk. And myself, I suppose.
No victory lap today for me.
No victory lap. You had it last week.
Here.
You're only allowed one per year.
You could do it with Jake Dolegal if you want.
I knew that. That's too easy. I mean, anybody who knows anything about football would have called that. But I did hit my cool bet of Jake Dolegala under 259 passing yards, and that was not even at trouble. Uh-oh. Just one. Oh, no.
What does that mean? Why would his number get taken down?
Well, maybe they confirmed that the horse had eaten, steroids or something before the game. Or
I was hoping for that in a few other races. What did your race
He could
get
be
for?
flat out lying, too. We don't know. We don't know.
We're no. Well, my cool bet before the game, I said over 49. It'd be a push if you bet that. It's 49 points. The cool bet lock shot parlay was 49.5. Hassan, I needed. We need 49.5 or a plus 518 or something to hit.
That stinks.
At half a point.
That sucks.
Is what cost us on that parlay with that one.
I never want to see you lose.
So yeah, that one was a little disappointing.
Yeah.
But if you listen to my prop on the game earlier, it was 49.0, so you would have got a push today. But the Edmonton Elks, they go get this victory. And look, BC Lions are reeling right now. Saskatchewan Roughriders are reeling right now, banged up. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I don't know, still.
I don't know.
I want to see them after the bye. They get BC next week.
I don't know what to say about this.
And the Calgary Stampeders, they can't win on the road. They're great at home. They suck on the road. The path is there for the. We talked about it on the early on the pregame show. I'm going to bring that question into now the postgame show. Have the Elks turned a corner? After this game now, do you feel the Elks have turned a corner? Do you feel confident that this season they have turned it around? 780-218-9999. That is the Paris Jewelers inbox. You can jump in the nasty chat. Because before the show, I think it was about 65-35 said no, it was just one win going into this game. And I agreed with that, and I said if they win this game, I will probably switch and say they've turned this season around. I will say I think they've turned this season around because we saw that running attack there with McLeod Bethel Thompson as the starting quarterback. We're seeing this defense play better. There's just a lot of good that is happening around the Edmonton Elks that isn't just Trey Ford. So I think they have turned it around, but after this game, where are you at? What about you, Jay?
If there was a healthy Trey Ford that was doing the post-game interview with Tommy.
Yeah, you don't get that, though.
I would say yes. I feel that now they're on a little bit of a roll. I'm still going to say I'm optimistically thinking yes. I think they have, securing 2 wins under the belt. And it's not just because they've won. It's the way they've won. They showed some grit. This was a game that could have easily went both ways. Heck, it could have easily ended up in a loss if this was the first 5 games of the year where this team just found ways to lose and made critical errors, right? But they didn't. They put the foot down. They didn't take their foot off the neck of the BC Lions, and they finished the job. That is what winning teams do. Somehow, some way, you get a 15-yard roughing the kicker. I mean, that's how winning teams get it done. It just happens. So, yeah, I will say that there is enough body of evidence here to suggest that, yes, they are turning it around. And I think they're going to carry on with full steam right into Hamilton and rack up another one and really make things interesting in the Western Conference.
Well, look, if BC figures it out and doesn't go on a 4-game losing streak and they beat the Bombers next week, there's a situation where the Elks and the Bombers could be tied as the Elks are trying to climb up these West standings. Or if the Elks go win that football game, all of a sudden they're only 2 games back of the BC Lions.
Crazy, right?
Yes.
This Western Conference is going to be extremely exciting. And we're not even at Labor Day.
Well, and also the Elks have the tiebreaker over the Lions because the Lions won by 3.
Which is
the Elks won by more than 3
hilarious
tonight.
Yeah.
So the Elks have the tiebreaker against the BC Lions. So if they keep reeling, now all of a sudden, it looked like the BC Lions were going to run away with the West. I'm not saying the Elks are catching the BC Lions in the next 3 weeks or something, but the West is much more closer and open than I would have thought 2 weeks ago.
There's something to talk about now, Matty. 2 weeks ago, there was nothing to talk about but doom and gloom. Now you're looking at a team that if they go and win next week, they're going to be right in the mix in the Western Conference, if you can believe it.
The Calgary Stampeders might be the second team in the West after next week.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. It's the CFL, and that is why they say, folks, that the season does not start till after Labor Day.
Well, Calgary is at home against Ottawa. Calgary doesn't lose at home, so I'm going to give them that win right now. Saskatchewan's home to Montreal.
That's a tough game.
Maybe Trevor Harris comes back. Maybe
Doesn't
that's
matter.
the thing for Saskatchewan.
You know.
That's the thing for Saskatchewan. If Trevor Harris comes back, maybe they find a win, but you got to think Montreal's going to get that win. If Edmonton can be Hamilton, again, BC Winnipeg's the wild one. It's the crazy one. What's going to happen in that game? And all of a sudden, the Elks are tied with Winnipeg or 4 points back at the BC Lions.
Crazy.
Here we go.
You know what's nice, Maddie, is the people in the streets are getting the word. Because this place is buzzing right now. A lot of Elks gear. There's a lot of excitement in the air. The people are here. They're coming to see Maddie after.
I want to see what the attendance was announced for today on this because I want to get to that right away here. Johnny Alberta, Ford is out long term. We could easily U-turn into molasses again. I agree with that, but
Malaise.
I was thinking molasses for some reason.
I read it as molasses too.
Malaise into malaise again. I agree, but I don't think Trey Ford's out long term.
I don't either.
That's the thing. That's where I'm going to go with that one.
I think he's probably back by Labor Day.
18-4, just shy of 18-5 attendance today. I'm not going to. That's a little disappointing to me. Coming off a win, beautiful night. No Chris Jones. People they want to flock back. I will say though, the Elks now go on a bit of a. They're gone for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Pink's coming to Edmonton. Metallica's coming to Edmonton for a couple of shows. So the Elks are on a 3-game road trip. Hamilton, Montreal, Calgary. If they can go find 2 wins.
Yeah.
If they could be 4-1 and 5 coming home for Labor Day rematch, that crowd better be close to 30, I'd say.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
I would hope that would be the case because what we've heard from people that aren't showing up is they don't want to watch a loser. They want to watch Trey Ford and Chris Jones. Can't stand Chris Jones. Well, Chris Jones is gone. If Trey Ford is healthy, he'll be playing, and they could be a winning team going into that game. It'd be nice to see that then being the team get rewarded with a crowd, a bigger crowd, to push them along in a battle of Alberta.
it would be great to see for the team, for the city, for just the spirit of Edmonton football. It's been a long time. It's been a rough time. Not to say we're out of it by any stretch of the imagination, but you see a point and a way to get there now. It looks like there's actually hope for the first time in a long time.
Since last year.
And I saw, right there, Tango said in the Nasty Chat, difference was confidence all year for the Elks. You can see the team is rejuvenated. And I believe that. I believe there's amazing power in positive perception and coming in with the right mental, space and feeling like, we're going to go and win this. Not like, oh, God, how are we going to lose this again? which is what happened early in the year. And, that could very well be the change at the top. That could be a Chris Jones issue, because now it seems like this is a different team. Even with Macbeth at the helm, in the second quarter and possibly next week, this looks like a different team.
Well, I also think it was just one we've heard it. They just need to start winning a couple games and they'd feel good.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a loss ultimately, but that game against Hamilton, that fourth quarter, feels like there's the turning point of this season. Because the defense showed up in a very short period of time. The offense showed up with Trey Ford in a very short period of time, but all of a sudden it was, maybe we aren't as bad. And then they go out and get Saskatchewan last week, and they dominate that football game. The score was closer than it really was because Saskatchewan scored a last-second touchdown.
Yeah.
But the Elks dominated that football game yesterday out in Saskatchewan, and I think then now it's like, actually, we can do this. We're getting those wins now. There's your turning point is Trey Ford coming in. And it's not Trey Ford, but it's that moment, that fourth quarter against Hamilton. Because that post-game show we did was actually a very positive post-game show.
Yes.
Because we were like, look what happened. Look at how great that last 15 minutes was. And we didn't focus too much on the first 45 outside of discussing MBT and that. It was like, look at these last 15 minutes. And then we talked about last week. And now I just think overall there's all that confidence. They're feeling good. I guess the key will be there will be a stumble. They will lose a football game. Do they allow that to impact them? And does that, or can they get out of it quickly? That's going to be the test of, I think, this team. It's great that now you've won a couple in a row, but when you face the next adversity, because it will come, can you get out of that quickly, or does it send you into another slump?
Well, see, they've never had a 2-game win streak under Chris Jones. They didn't have that, at least this second go around, right?
Last year.
Well, sorry, this
Ottawa Hamilton.
They didn't have positive experience with Chris Jones this year.
Yes,
they have those positive experiences now with Jarius Jackson as the head coach, right? So I think the more and more I'm seeing and reading the tea leaves here, I feel like there was a lot of hindrance brought on board by Chris Jones. I mean, you look at the numbers just in the rushing game. They're astonishingly different with Chris Jones out of the picture. They have brought in a run game. They are sticking to the run game. And, I wish Glue Guy would have told us this earlier. It works. It works if you commit to it. Get me fired up. What I'm saying is they now have a different leader that is bringing this team up. So, you're going to have adversity, but I think now they have the person that in a Jarius Jackson, or if it's Trey Ford, just having Trey Ford a little bit footloose and fancy-free, injury aside, and them having that belief, of course they can bounce back from that.
To the Trey Ford injury, for those that didn't see it, he escaped the pressure, got around, actually made a very nice move to force the two defenders of the Lions to kind of stutter, to give him the space to get by. But then he needs to commit one of two things quickly there, just throwing that ball away or getting out of bounds. And we very briefly touched at the start of the post-game show, but that's the thing that Trey Ford, the next evolution he needs is sometimes it's okay to just give up the yards. Sometimes it's okay to not make the special play happen because you don't want to force a bad pass that leads into an interception. You also don't want to take that unnecessary hit. And this is he got a double hit there. I don't know where the injury was. Was it the first hit kind of, or did it come on the second hit where he got driven down?
Driven into the ground.
If that's where that happened, though, it was you're getting hit from behind. You're not seeing it. It's an unnecessary hit you don't need to take because you were trying to make a throw there to extend a play and extend a drive. And sometimes it is okay to just take the loss. Short-term battle, but you're trying to win the war long-term.
I still question him. They reviewed that. He was behind the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's in the pocket or outside the pocket or the hashes that.
Yeah, it's not roughing the passer anymore.
That make a difference, but he was still behind the line of scrimmage. But that is,
once you leave the pocket enough,
Yeah.
it can't be
okay.
It can't be roughing the passer as much because then you could be a quarterback that just runs out there and then tries to throw, and it's I do believe that you still have to stay within the pocket.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they then deem you a runner.
Okay, because he did get hit in the helmet. That was, if that's in the pocket, that's roughing the passer all day. But obviously, those rules don't apply.
KC into the Parish Jewelers inbox, 780-218-9999. Went to the game last minute with my youngest kid. Haven't been to a game in years. What a fun night to watch a football game. We have to do that again from KC. And isn't that what it's all? Go there, have a good time. But what makes it even better, you're walking away having watched a win.
It never hurts. I'll put it to you that way.
With this franchise, that's how people are going to judge it. And you feel
That's
a
how
little
any
bit.
franchise should be judged.
It's not.
Yeah.
No. The Riverhawks and the Stingers don't get that.
The Riverhawks are not a losing team.
They were last year.
Yeah. Well, they're
That's
not
the
at
difference.
that level, though.
That's my point.
Apples to
No,
oranges.
but that's because people always try to compare those with the Elks. In the end, the Elks have the history here that what determines whether people had a fun time at an Elks game, first and foremost, what it always starts with, is what was the final score? Did the Elks win? And tonight they did. So right off the bat, more fans than not are going to be walking away going, that was a good time.
Positive
and then
experience.
It's everything else that happens. And did they have more or less? Did you have a fun time at the tailgate? Did you enjoy your seats that you're in and the people around? That all adds. Actually, we had a couple of guys next to us that were just talking all game.
Yeah.
And it was fun listening to them.
Some old fellas. Some of the old boys.
The one guy had a 2015 Grey Cup shirt with Michael Riley on it.
Loved it.
It was awesome.
Beautiful.
There's actually always quite a bit of Elks gear.
Yeah.
Here
Oh, yeah. There's
throughout game days
Yeah.
when we're here. Not just post-game when people start rolling in. Throughout the games and stuff. And it's actually, I'll say this, being around here where we're by all the horse bettors, and there's a lot of them during, the night, listening to them to all talk about the Elks. It was all the same things, though. It was just, should have been playing Trey Ford from the start. And, just hearing those, the casual fan talk about it, it is wonderful. The ones that they're not focused on every game in and game out, but they still have an idea of what's going on. And then them just the comments about Chris Jones and stuff like that. It's a great spot to be.
Well, there's a large sense of everybody here knows what the problem was, and they're the ones that called it. Almost all of them. They solved the problems. It's about time. They should have listened to me since the start. But it is nice. They all have a passion.
It's there in this city.
Yeah.
People still care about this team.
For sure they do.
Well, you get those people saying CFL's dying, no one cares, all that. But anytime you bring up the Elks, anytime you talk about their struggles, people still care. It still matters. They just got to start winning more consistently and more on a more regular basis. Maybe this is the start of something. Can't get on a streak unless you win one.
It already
and then
is
you
a
can't
start
win
of
two.
something.
You got a 2-game winning streak.
It's already a start.
The Elks going streaking.
Let's do it.
Let's see how far this streak can go.
Could it
go to
streaking.
3? Can we get 3 next week? Let's run through the stats of this game as the Elks defeat the Lions 33-16. MBT 14 of 18 for 171 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Trey Ford was perfect passing, 6 for 6, 96 yards. He also rushed the ball twice for 11 yards, but did get hurt, was deemed during the game questionable to return with what looks like rib injuries. Javon Leake, 21 carries for 97 yards and a touchdown. He also caught the ball 4 times for 37 yards. Rankin had 7 carries for 77 yards, including 45 yards. Tevin Jones leading the way receiving-wise, 6 catches, 123 yards. Gittins Jr., 6 catches, 70 yards. Dylan Mitchell, 3 catches, 20 yards. He also caught a 2-point conversion. Rankin, I forgot to mention, he caught 1 ball for 17 yards and a touchdown. Eugene Lewis and Herji Mayala didn't have any catches. They each only were targeted once. Niles Morgan and Derek Moncrief led the way tackles-wise with 7 each. The Elks had 2 sacks in this game. Oakman and Noah Curtis, with which I believe was his 5th sack on the season. For the BC Lions, notable Jake Dolagala, 14 of 23 for 146 yards. Bryce came in 4 for 4 for 41 yards. Standback, 13 carries, 87 yards. He also caught the ball for 9 yards. Kean Hatcher, 4 catches for 62 yards. McInnes, 3 catches for 54 yards. Katoy, coming back from injury, 3 catches for 26 yards. The Elks doing a great job of containing Alexander Hollins, who had 2 catches for 18 yards. TJ Lee led the way defensively for them with 8 tackles. They had 2 sacks in the game. They also had an interception. Kicking-wise, Bordas Beatty, 3 of 4, including making a 51, but also missing a 34. He was also perfect for the extra points. Sean White continues his streak of being perfect. He's 3 for 3. Julian averaged 37.5 yards per punt.
No.
Wait, why is there two different averages?
That's the net after return.
Oh, 52 yards.
Is his average.
He had a long, which was a 60. And there's your stats as the Edmonton Elks improved to 2-7 on the season. The BC Lions dropped to 5-4. The Elks still sit bottom of the CFL West with 4 points, but they're 2 points back of Winnipeg, 4 points back of Calgary, 6 back of BC, 7 back of Saskatchewan. Everyone has played 9 games, so it's no games in hand. We're into the second half of the Western Division season. As this is the halfway point. We're at the halfway point.
That tie game is really going to make things interesting down the stretch, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to cause some nightmares for some of these teams.
For them, because they sit at the top of the West right now, it gives them a tiebreaker, a virtual tiebreaker right off the bat.
True enough.
They just got that extra point sitting there. I don't know if you want that or not. Like, obviously, you'd rather have the win.
You'd rather have the 2 points instead of the 1. But
I don't know. I think that's going to, if I'm Saskatchewan, that's going to work out in my favor down the stretch, I would believe.
In the West, yeah,
yep.
For sure.
Yep. Because, I don't know, they've already lost to BC, I know, at least once. Did they play them again still? So, but BC would have the tiebreaker. The Elks have the advantage for the tiebreaker over the Riders, I believe, as well right now. But it doesn't matter because they've got the extra point. So it's going to be very hard to be tied on points where tiebreakers won't matter going down the stretch of this season. Let's jump into the nasty chat. Why did the Elks kick off to start the third quarter, given that they kicked off to BC to start the game? That would have been a decision for the wind. They probably would have wanted the wind in the fourth quarter.
Had to have been.
Because we saw the BC Lions choose in the first half, I believe it was, a couple of times where they didn't send Sean White out for the kick.
Yeah.
The guy can kick. He's got a perfect streak.
And we're talking like a
47-yarder or something like that.
Yeah.
He didn't want to kick into the wind. So that to me was the Elks probably deferred to start, which then the BC Lions were like, give us the ball. Second half, the Edmonton Elks were like, we're going to take the wind in the fourth quarter. Kicked it off as well. So that's you don't see that in the NFL, I think, almost off. That's a very rare one to see in the NFL. I recall it happening, I think, maybe once or twice watching it. Happens a little bit more in the Canadian Football League. We see quite a bit in the Prairies where that team will defer and ultimately just take the wind. And you get that one team then that gets the win or gets to receive the ball both to start the game and the start to the second half. But that's the reason why that would have happened is my guess. Brett, Barry, why was Lewis targeted only once? There's a number of reasons for that one. You could, without seeing would it be all 24 cam where you get to see every player. He's not getting open as one. 2, he's, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, he's drawing the attention away, so it's open up the other receivers. So why look at the receiver that is covered? 3, doesn't really have the chemistry. Doesn't really have that. It's just not built in with MBT or Trey Ford, really.
And
Maybe
we've seen
why.
this throughout this year. We've seen players like a Tevin Jones, like a Hergy Mayala, where they come out of nowhere and they're leading the team in receptions for, a stretch of 2 or 3 games. But I honestly think that a player like Eugene Lewis is drawing the ire of opposing defenses, which is opening things up for the other receivers. Because this is a talented receiving core.
Yes.
I'd say depth-wise, I mean, most teams have their 1 or 2 go-to guys. This team continually spreads the ball around.
The one issue I, though, have with Eugene Lewis, he might be pulling defenders away and he's covered and stuff, is he's a guy that you can just throw it to and he's going to catch it generally. I know he had
Not tonight.
Not tonight. He didn't. But he's a professional, and he shouldn't be this way, but I could see frustrations in him that he's not getting targeted, that he wasn't fully there on that play.
If he's frustrated after tonight because he was targeted once.
I don't think he's frustrated after tonight. I think he's frustrated this season. He's been frustrated this season about the lack of targets. And then MBT did throw it to him a little bit, but they've gone to Trey Ford, and Trey Ford just doesn't really have the chemistry with anyone outside of Tevin Jones, it seems, which you pointed to last week, that they would have been taking second-team reps together. Yeah. So that makes sense of why he comes in. But for whatever reason, Geno Lewis isn't getting the targets this season like we saw last year. And he seems like that guy that is frustrated by it because we've seen it. And to a degree, I don't mind seeing a top receiver get upset that they're not getting the ball. They want the football. They want to make plays. They think they're great.
Yeah, of course. And especially at that position, to be honest, a lot of ego in that
Very much
position for sure. But, I wanted to say this too, is I feel as though, I honestly, yes, the Elks won that game, but it was really good timing for a Jake Delagola-led defense or offense to come in to Commonwealth Stadium. If that was Vernon Adams, this is a much, much different game. I'm not even sure if the Elks would have been able to hang on and win it 33-16 like they did, but it's not.
You never know.
It's a stepping stone. It's a confidence builder. But now they're going in to Hamilton next week, where Bo Levi Mitchell has been relieved of his duties for Taylor Powell, another unproven quarterback.
I do like Taylor Powell. They should have went to him to start this season.
But
like Edmonton with Trey Ford, they should have just been developing Taylor Powell.
So you're saying Taylor Powell is Hamilton's Trey Ford?
He's the future. He'd be more the future outside of Trey Ford actually being the future of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He's a good younger quarterback. I like what I saw from him last year. I would have invested in him and gave him this season from the Hamilton Tiger Cats as opposed to Bo, who. How much longer do you have left, Bo?
Bo was leading the CFL or second in the CFL behind Vernon Adams for the first 6 weeks.
Not a long-term solution.
I guess. I don't know. But okay. We'll see it. But the timing of a defense, Edmonton's defense going up against another inexperienced quarterback is about as good as you could have the schedule makers draw this one up for Edmonton.
One, if you want to say the football gods too, the BC with Dolagala coming in instead of VA, and then you get Hamilton with everything that's going on there. That's why this was a big win for the Elks today, because that run of 3 is there.
It's available.
All games are hard, but the easiest, if there is an easy one of the 3 games that you looked at, can you win? It's the next one. You got through the 2 toughest tests. And you should also be pissed off if you're the Elks going into that game with what Hamilton did to you in Edmonton.
Sure.
Because it wasn't just they beat the Edmonton Elks.
They beat the brakes off of them.
They just beat them down.
Yeah.
They took them out back and just kept pummeling them.
Yeah.
So if you're the Elks, you're going to have that pride that comes in and goes, we remember what you did a few weeks ago. We're not that same team anymore.
Interesting point. I like that. Use whatever you can to motivate the troops, however, whatever it takes. Get the team fired up. Go for win number 3. That's awesome. That's very attainable.
And continue the streaking. Where was Gilbert? How long does it take to rebuild a competitive team? In the Canadian Football League, it should be 2 to 3 years. 3 is a long time, actually. Should be 2 years. There's a lot of turnover, a lot of free agencies. Like, you could turn it around relatively quickly. The Elks have pieces.
Yeah, this is not a non-competitive team.
No, I look at this team right now and I go, if they keep going this way the rest of the season, they should be a much better team next year if they make the right roster moves next offseason as opposed to the wrong ones which they did this past offseason.
Yeah, focus on bringing in some depth at offensive line, reorganize that defensive secondary, especially towards the corners. That seems to be a weakness. But, I mentioned it in the kickoff show. The Elks win if what? Their defense can somewhat limit Dolagala, not give up the big plays like they have in the past, and they didn't. The old bend but don't break mentality, that's now worked 2 games in a row. Combine that with an offense that's now staying on the field longer, putting together drives, because they're running the ball 28 times. Well, it looks like that's a little bit of a recipe for success. Did you hear my pen slam?
Not that loud.
That's like a. That was like a. Huh. That's it. That's my point. But yeah, I think they can win the next. I mean, they've got a nice little path here, for sure. I think Labor Day's games are going to be very, very meaningful.
Wow. You can't get swept in those. That'll be your playoff live gone.
Yeah.
You got to go with minimum, get the split. But September's a big month for the Edmonton Elks if we're going to talk playoffs. If we're going to be talking about talking Elks football in November, it comes down to that time because in Hamilton next week you get Montreal. I'm expecting 1-1 in that. Just go there. They're 3-8 football team. But September, the entire month of September, it's Calgary, Calgary, Winnipeg, Winnipeg. It's the two teams you're mostly going to be looking after. You need to have a 3-1 or 4-0 month of September. If by October 5th, when the Elks take on the Saskatchewan Roughriders, we're talking about this is the full playoff push we're in.
They could be 7-8.
Absolutely. Then they get Saskatchewan, Calgary, anyways. Toronto.
Well, anything can happen, as we've clearly.
Well, there's
seen
also
here.
there isn't the Bombers of the last few years. That team that's really fully at the top. Montreal is up there,
But they're not.
but they're also in the other division.
They're not. BC's the
has
most complete
dropped,
team.
but they've dropped down. And Winnipeg, I'm not sold on Winnipeg. Calgary and Saskatchewan, I would have been more sold on Saskatchewan if they didn't have as many injuries as they're getting right now. But when you have once Labor Day hits, every game is against the West except for Toronto. And you don't have to play the BC Lions anymore. If at the thing actually the Elks fans need is the BC Lions to get back to rolling. You want the BC Lions to once again prove that they are best team in the West and go and roll the rest of the way, because chances are, I haven't looked at their schedule, there's going to be a lot of games against Western teams, and that's going to benefit the Edmonton Elks because the Edmonton Elks do not have to play the BC Lions anymore.
Well, but that just goes to show you, in the CFL, if your quarterback is out or you don't have a suitable solution at quarterback, you're screwed.
I'm wrong. BC plays only East. They get Winnipeg next week. They get 2 games against Ottawa. They get Montreal, Toronto, Hamilton. They play Calgary, Saskatchewan, then they get Montreal. They have 2 games against the West after this. The hell kind of schedule is that?
So they've really opened up this. Well, it's not opened up a lead. They've dropped their last 2, but against Western Conference teams.
Well, there goes that theory that they're going to help the Edmonton Elks.
Maybe that's good for the crossover, Matty.
Well, I guess if we're going to look at the crossover in that regards. The Edmonton Elks, if we're looking at the crossover, 3.5 games back. They can't be tied. There is no season series. It's not a case that if they go beat the Argos, the Argos already won, and they win the season series that way, it doesn't count that way.
Right.
In the crossover, you have to be 1 point ahead of the other team. And so the Elks are effectively, they're 7 points back of a playoff spot that way. But maybe that's how it goes. Maybe it's the BC Lions.
Juicy.
Or is that 1 point of Ottawa going to play and factor into that?
I'm telling you, it's going to.
Is that going to be? Are the Ottawa Redblacks going to look back and go, we missed the playoffs of crossover to the Edmonton Elks because we tied with the Saskatchewan Roughriders and didn't win that football game?
I'm telling you that will have some sort it's going to mean something at the end of the season. I guarantee it. It's the CFL. It must.
The Edmonton Elks defeating the BC Lions. Trey Ford getting hurt in this game. We will wait and see the status of Trey Ford moving forward. The two of us, not that worried in terms of a long-term injury. Long-term. But we will wait to hear the official word. I have hope because he stayed on the bench the entire
it's not
football
serious.
game. So,
it's not serious. It could be 4 weeks, though. I think that would be the worst-case scenario. I'm not a doctor, but I would say that. Now he's young, he's fit, he's in the best shape of his life. He heals faster than old farts like you and I.
Depends what it is. Depends what it is. Hamilton next week. Quickly, final thoughts of this game?
It was nice to see them keep the hammer down, not let this, hiccup injury to Trey Ford take over the game, drop their morale. They actually were able to stay in the fight and then extend the lead late in the game. I thought that was very optimistically sound for if you're an Elks fan to see them not drop the ball in that situation. They could have easily. It was right there.
Next up for the Elks, Saturday, they take on the Hamilton Tiger Cats. That game gets going out in Hamilton just after 5 o'clock, which means the Green and Gold kickoff show from right here at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where every day is game day, will get going at 4 o'clock with Jay and myself, Matt. The daily special that day is the prime rib sandwich, which is delicious. You almost got that last week, but then you went with the pizza, and you stuck with the pizza, and you got it well done. They've got a great menu.
was
You
good.
also get the game day special, which is the cheese and jalapeno smoky, which comes with waffle fries, which I had. So come join us next week. Watch the football game with us. Join us while we're getting into the ponies as well. It's a mix of everything. We watch some football, we bet on the ponies, and we have a good time eating some great food here.
We literally bet
Casino.
$10 on the ponies. So if you come down, you could join. We can make some sort of a pooled bet or something like that.
I walked with 40 cents today. I
Yeah.
profited. I was up as high as about 740. And
it
then
was huge. Hit a huge
I
one.
did win a few. I was
did.
actually not doing too bad with
You
the
were Rain
ponies.
Man out there.
At the end, I wasn't doing as well. I wasn't the other gentleman who took your money and ran.
Yeah, all I have left is a handwritten note.
I still want to get his name. Thanks to everyone for tuning in to the Green and Gold post-game show. Again, the Edmonton Elks, they defeat the BC Lions 33-16. They improved to 2-7 on this season. Thanks to everyone for joining us, for texting into the Paris Jewelers inbox or jumping into the Nasty Chat. On behalf of Jay, I'm Matt. Thanks for tuning into the Green and Gold post-game show live right here from Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge on your clear choice for Edmonton sports, Edmonton Sports Talk. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. The Nielsen Show on the air with more recap of this Elks game tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock with Dusty, Eric, and YouTube Trev. Until the hangout tomorrow where I will talk with you next, have a good night.